Hello, welcome you all to Team 2. What is Team 2? We all know communication and leadership are the key skills for job in the corporate world. The objective of Team 2 is to promote communication, collaboration, public speaking, social and leadership skills. Why Team 2? Through Team 2, we are connecting new generation. Team 2 is for collaboration. There are a lot of experience within the group itself for higher studies or jobs. You can get guidance. People within the community can help each other. Team 2 is for communication. We have planned approach for communication and skill development with project. Team 2 is for leadership. We are interacting with leaders as guest speakers to a session and provide a chance for discussing with them. So set aside an hour every weekend for self-development. We have two streams at present, technology stream and communication stream. So please join and grow with us. Today, we have a startup consortium company, Healthmed Technologies Chennai, showcasing their products. They specialize in software for clinics and hospitals. It is a leading hospital information management system company. Their software application is being used for 20 plus hospitals globally. The vision of HealthMed is to build a world-class solution that is interoperable with wearables, IoT, AI, and any other health systems that will wow any user while is leveraging cutting-edge technology frameworks that is simple to adopt, quick to scale, and value for money. I welcome Mr. Vetrivel, the founder of the company. Sir, we are honored to have you here with us. Over to you.
Thank you, Dia. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll quickly cover the slides and then we will have an interactive session. So in between, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. Okay. So I'll tell briefly about myself. So I have more than 20 years experience in the IT field, and my longest stint was with Verizon. So that is where I worked closely with Ashraf on several IT initiatives of Verizon. And then after I left Verizon in 2012, after that I am into healthcare. So I've been working for a few companies who are on the similar lines, and then started this company in 2016 to build a solution for the health industry, like hospitals or clinics, where this one product will have all the modules that are required for them. Because like integrating multiple disparate systems was increasingly difficult, at least in our part of the world, in the Asia Pacific region. That's not like favorable approach. In the Western world, a lot of things are already standardized. So for example, a patient will go to the hospital, get the treatment, and then their charges will go to the insurance company. Insurance company will pay the hospital or clinic. The patient will pay a copay. So a lot of things are standardized. So they are used to having multiple disparate systems which will work together. Whereas in the Asia Pacific region, it's not as straightforward as it happens in the Western world. So there are too many systems, and then almost on a daily basis there are integration nightmares. where a lot of manual data pulling and pushing between systems happen. So what we thought is we'll have a system that has almost everything that is required to run a hospital, the operation modules as well as the clinical modules, and also have integration touch points for all these modern health devices like wearables or any kind of IoT devices. Okay, so that was the objective when we started. Basically, if you just Google and see, most of the challenges facing a hospital is a lot of operational things, waiting time more, bill not clear, and after the doctor says patient can be discharged, still it will take at least 7-8 hours for the billing team to finalize the bill and then discharge the patient, move the patient out of the hospital. So we can cut down all those experience nightmares and then give a very pleasant experience for the patients. Okay. So since I said we want to build everything into this one single system, so there are about 40 modules and the access is role based. So technology we are using, we'll cover that in the next slide. So the easier part is the implementation can be done by anybody. We do not need a technical person to implement the software at these hospitals. Okay. So this is the technology we started with. So HTML5 and Angular UI and Node Express in the middleware. And when we started, there are a lot of doubts among several segments of people whether Node will scale to the level of like enterprise application that we are building. I'll talk about that also. Okay. And then on the database side, we add MySQL for all the operational transactional data and MongoDB for the clinical records. So even that the adoption among hospitals were not high. So we kind of moved the clinical data also to MySQL structured data. Then we have Redis for cache management. And then any medical devices, we interface through an integration engine called Mirth. So Mirth is again open source interface engine, which understands a protocol called HL7. So we have studied the OSI model of communication, right? Like layer 1, transport layer, layer 2, physical layer, then network layer, application layer, like that. On top is this HL7 layer where there are message formats defined. And then the message exchanges become easy. So now a lot of things are happening in the Indian healthcare space also. The government is coming up with a lot of APIs where they will mandate these hospitals and clinics to push the patient and clinical data to a central repository so that the patient can have a mobile app where they will have their complete medical records in one place, similar to what DigiLocker is today. Okay. And the application deployment can be done on premise for very large hospitals that has multiple branches. They have their own data center, so they expect us to deploy the software in their data center. And there are smaller hospitals where we deploy this on a public cloud, and then they use the software from the public cloud. And there are a few other hospitals where they subscribe to the cloud service, and a lot of apps will be running on that cloud. Along with that, our application also will be running on that cloud. Okay. So another important aspect is integration of all the lab equipments to the software. So mostly the lab test that happens, so the machines will run the test and they will print a slip from where the result gets entered into our software by technician. So there's a lot of like errors that happen because especially during COVID time, volume of patients is so high. So the error rate is about 3 to 4%. So when we integrate those equipments to the software, once you put the sample inside the machine will run the test, push the results to the software where it gets automatically updated. And then there are certain parameters to check, and there is approval also can be done automatically, and then the report generated and sent to the patient. Okay, most of the times the non-clinical requests get processed through this channel. For example, for any international travel or even domestic travel, COVID negative certificate or a vaccination proof is required. So for these kind of things, the test get run automatically and then the certificate gets generated. Okay. So apart from clinical integrations, most of the times for larger group companies, so they will have a standard financial accounting backend system. So they use Microsoft Dynamics or Oracle or SAP, Tally, these kind of systems. So we have also integrated with those external systems from a financial accounting perspective. And then for one of the hospitals, we have integrated with the EPABX system also, where the patients, they keep a phone in the patient's room and then charges get added to their bill. Apart from this, there are some legacy systems where we do the like spreadsheet based, CSV file based integrations also. Okay, so the key differentiator is the implementation process. So I don't know how many of you are aware, in the healthcare industry, the success rate for implementation of a project of this nature is 22%. Out of 100 projects that happen, only 22 projects get successfully completed. Okay, because the user base is quite varied and there's a lot of stakeholders involved. So only when we have a controlled and process-driven approach for implementation, we can be successful in doing the implementation. Okay. So these are the various milestones. So generally, it is not, the industry as such is not structured like any other industry. So what will happen is we go through from business requirement study up to this user acceptance test level. And finally, when we are prepared for go live at this UAT level, there they kind of uncover a lot of requirements. Okay, because generally in projects of this nature, the actual users who are going to use the system will get introduced to the software at this stage. Okay, and then what we do is we roll back from the stage 8 to stage 2 and start all over again. So instead, we have carefully put together a process where we have a set of people for this business requirement study that is a cross section of all the segments of the users. Okay, usually there will be an IT department in the hospital and they involved in these kind of requirement study. But then we also invite participants from various departmental at the user level who really know what will work for them and what will not work for them. Okay. And then we take them through, we create a sandbox environment, provide them access, and then we take them through step by step all these stages. So we need to take them along. So if we drop them at some point, so this is a project where we cannot tell, okay, I've done my job, so whether you use it or don't use it, it's up to you. So it cannot happen that way. So we need to take them along, go live, make them use the software and get them comfortable. Only then the project is complete. Otherwise, at any point in time, they may roll back to the older software that they were using, or they'll scrap the whole thing and find a new product. Okay. And for post-live support also, we follow the ITIL standards, and we have a service desk which is 24/7. So the requests come through emails, and then those requests get serviced. So any kind of priority, like critical severity 1 issues, the customers will call our help desk, and then we try to resolve. So there are SLAs we agree with the customers, and we keep the downtime very, very less. Though we have a 99.9% availability commitment as a contractual commitment, our availability levels are 99.999, like 5 nines. Okay, so there's a lot of benefits that stakeholders derive out of using the software. So we provide a patient ID card with QR code. So anytime when the patient wants to visit a doctor, so they build a relationship with the hospital. So they just directly go to the hospital. Otherwise, it's generally word of mouth. They check with few other friends, and then they keep changing the hospital often. So when we have a proper way of gathering the records in one place, so the patient also keep repeatedly going to e-prescriptions. So e-prescriptions flow to pharmacy. So through this, we have improved the pharmacy efficiency, and also the much reduced price because of their volumes. Okay, and we have the capability to build dashboards within the software. So depending on the needs of the management team, we can create custom dashboards for each one of their roles. So they can just download these, put it in their presentation, and they do like monthly management reviews through these dashboards. Okay, so the software is completely standards compliant. So we rely very less on the hospital for any kind of like global data that we configure for the system. So everything comes from standards. What we expect from the individual hospitals, clinics, or diagnostic centers is only the rates that they charge. So just put the rates, and then the software will be ready to use. And so if you see, these are some of the standards. So this is NABH, is National Accreditation Bureau of Health, which is the Indian standard. And then there is Joint Commission International, which is again international standard. Then there is an Australian one, ACHS, and HIMSS is a US standard. So if you see, there are only about 3 JCA accredited hospitals in Chennai, in the whole of Chennai, and whole of India, there are about 13 JCA accredited hospitals. So now we are leaning more towards JCA accreditation, and almost all the hospitals are NABH accredited hospitals. So this is like equivalent is your SCI CMM level 3, level 4 is NABH, and your level 5 is like JCI. So that is an analogy we can draw from the software industry. Okay, so these are some of the doctors who have provided feedback, who have used the software. Okay, so they have mentioned about 20 customers. We have about 40 customers now, and so we are expanding a lot. So there are the value, customers realize the value of the software that we provide, and the customer base is increasing on a daily basis. Okay, so now coming back to what I really wanted to discuss. Okay, so before that, are there any questions from anyone?
This one, see, is it integrated to a ERP system, or you are providing the capability to do that?
Okay. So for large hospitals, they have a separate ERP backend system. Okay, for example, SAP Business One or SAP FICO. Okay, so we integrate to those systems. We also have the financial accounting capabilities within the software. Those are meeting the needs of smaller hospitals. But for very large group setup, so they use like SAP or Microsoft Dynamics.
Okay.
Okay, so since I think people who are gathered here are from development background. So what the code base in Bitbucket and use Jenkins for build automation. Okay, so we deploy the software as a Docker container, and we do the instance scaling based on the load. Okay, so we are on a little older version of Node, and we need to upgrade that. So we use Node and SQLize for database communication. So we need to upgrade the Node version. So that is one technical activity that we need to plan, and then we need to upgrade the UI to Angular 2. Okay, so most of it we have used jQuery and Angular. So again, it's not a straightforward migration. It's like a total rewrite of the UI. Okay, so at least we have finalized that we need to move to much later version of Angular for the UI. And the Node, we are at version 8.x, which we want to move to version 12. So again, there are CLS frameworks that need to get updated for this version of the Node. And then operating system, we have been using CentOS Linux. So CentOS Linux also, so CentOS, the build versions is just a copy of what Red Hat was using, but then Red Hat Linux stopped CentOS with version 8. Okay, so it's in the end of license period. So we are exploring newer versions of. There's another replacement for CentOS is Rocky Linux. So we are still testing it in the lab, and the other option is Ubuntu. So we'll be choosing between one of these two. Okay.
Okay.
So how many of you understood this architecture and what questions you have? So if anyone is interested in contributing or want to know how we do the migrations from one version to another, so you're welcome to participate and be part of our team. It's a tremendous learning opportunity.
The entire application is in one Docker image, or are they having multiple?
No, it's multiple Docker images.
Okay.
So the application is in one image, the database is in another image, and this Redis is in another image. And for MS reports, we are using Tomcat. So that is another image.
Okay. And any dashboarding reports and other things? Are they? Do you have any standard?
So we do not use separate dashboard tools.
Okay.
So we haven't done that. So all the dashboards that you see are hand coded using the same UI framework and connecting to the database.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll show the containers just for interest and knowledge of the team who are on the call. So Portainer is a UI tool for managing the Docker instances. Okay, so for example, these are the containers that we deploy.
Hello, you are sharing that old screen? Or is it? Sorry.
We are still only seeing the whole screen. Wait, let me stop and can you see the new screen now?
Yes.
So if we take the production app, so there is an application container, then there's a database container, there's Redis. Okay, this is for the interfacing with the external systems. So there's a separate MySQL DB for that, and then the mirth integrate we saw. So that's a separate container. Database are deployed in Tomcat. Okay, so we create this image. So this is the application version number. So all the customers that you saw, they are all on the same version of the software. So we do not do a lot of patch deployment. So we upgrade all the customers quarterly. So customers will be on at least latest or just one version prior to that, and there are no customers who are having older version of the software. Suppose if they move out of our AMC, then they may be on the old version. But anytime if they need any support, we support only customers who are on the current and previous release.
And you have deployment in AWS as well and all, right?
Yes. What we see here, this is the AWS ECS container. So we subscribe to a Linux instance and then deploy the individual containers in that.
This MySQL, are you using any operators? I mean, is like a clustered kind of thing, or is
Okay,
it like a simple?
okay, this one, whatever we deploy in the cloud is single instance, because the whole image gets the backup happens for the complete container image that we are using. For on-premise servers, we replicate and then have two instances of the DB running in two different boxes in the master slave mode.
Okay. So what is the plan? What are the next items you are thinking for your, enhancement kind of thing?
Yeah. So we have to list it in that order of priority. The first one is the API layer upgrade. So node upgrade, SQLize upgrade, and then the Angular upgrade. Okay, these two, and then the pipeline automation using Jenkins. So when there is a code ready for build, so we need to automate the code gets built the dark servers. Okay, and a lot of these things we did not have expert who came and built it for us. So everything, we have a lab, and in the lab we just work really hard, and then document that out our friendly customers first, and once it's successful, then we roll it out to all the customers that we have.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
In between there's some break.
Yeah, there was some disturbance.
Okay. So you have some more, anything else to share?
No, so technically, so these are the things that I wanted to share.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, thank you, Patri, for your detailed presentation on your product and other things. So I will I'll see any of the people who are basically the mentors, right, who wanted to be
Yeah.
to work with you or something. I will try to connect with them, and I will
Okay.
schedule some other another meeting technically, and then they will contact you basically.
Yeah. Okay, so even otherwise, if anybody wants to do anything in this stream, we can provide the guidance. They want to Dockerize the application, so we can provide the needed guidance.
Okay. Anybody else is here? Hello. Anybody else wanted to ask any questions? And if there are any freshers, if they are good in Angular and all, they can join you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So anybody else? Yeah, maybe we'll. I think Nasser and the other people. No, maybe tomorrow or something. I'll ask them to contact you and then get a detail.
Yeah, sure. So next session, yeah, we can go a little bit detail, and then
yeah, we can
figure out how we can carve out a project and then get started.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity, Ashraf, and thank you, team. I hope this was useful to you. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm part of that Tech Trends WhatsApp group also, so you can reach me there with your questions. Be happy to assist.